Hello, hello. This is G. Welcome, Aries. This is your video for April 2023. And we are going to talk about a few events that happened this month. This month, there is an eclipse, and it's in your sign. All right, so let's start at the beginning of the month. At the beginning of the month, there is a release, there is an ending, there is a closure, and it is in the sign of Libra. So for Aries energy, you're having a completion, a closure, and an ending. And this is happening in relationships, significant one-on-one relationships. This can be personal, and this can be business. All right. Now, the thing is to find out where is the 16 degrees in your chart, because that's where this full moon happens. Remember, it's just a full moon, so it can be it doesn't have to be anything gigantic. Okay, even if you have something there, usually if something difficult happens, like big, there is has to be like multiple markers in the chart. All right, so if you don't know and you want to know, just comment to me and I will help you out in any way that I can. But 16 degrees Libran energy on the 5th. Let me double check. Yeah, on the 5th of April. So when we have a full moon, it's just like we're wrapping something up. We've been feeling it. We've been feeling the closure. We've been feeling the ending. And on this day, right, might even be a couple of days before, you get kind of riled up. You feel it, right? Aries tends to be a little on the impatient side. All right. Aries tends to be a little on the, it doesn't want to wait. It almost feels sometimes like it's behind, right? And so it's always feeling like it needs to just go, that it's not moving fast enough. It always feels like it's just not moving fast enough. And so Aries has to kind of figure that out. Aries has to kind of like, okay, I got to count to 10. I got to slow down, because Aries energy can be really great and very inspiring, very inspirational because of its optimism. It's a very optimistic sign. Its ruler is Mars, though. And Mars can be kind of in the face. Mars energy can many times ends up being better working alone, because then it can move at its own pace. Right. And so when other people see its energy, they're just like, oh my God, I have to get out of the way. They're going to run me down. Right. And that's why that kind of energy ends up realizing it's better when it works solo. Right. Better when it works solo. And then the Arian energy, it matures over time. It gets a little bit better, like the fine wine. Yeah, that's Aries energy. So when you have a full moon in your 7th house, remember, partnerships. This is Libran energy at 16 degrees. This is April 5th. A completion, a closure, and an ending. And just see, if you want to know more, like if you already have your chart, just find out where is your birth Venus. Your birth Venus will give you more details. Okay. Now, when we move further into the month, we have a new beginning, because it's an eclipse. It's a North Node eclipse, and it's in your sign. I know I started to talk about it earlier, and here we are. And yeah, you can see Taffy in the background. Before I get to that eclipse, I want to kind of set the tone for the month of April for you. I know I probably should have said it in the beginning, but we have Mars, your ruler, in Cancer energy. Okay, this went into Cancer. Mars moved into the sign of Cancer, your family, your feelings, your emotions, your home. So it is your physical home, right? The sticks and the bricks, but it's also your feelings. It's how you feel inside. Okay. Mars inflames things. It can be optimistic and positive and impatient, very impatient. But if it goes into the home, which it is for you, just keep this in mind, because it happens at the end of March, right? Like the last 3 days in the month of March, Mars goes into your home, right? Literally your physical home. So this, for some of you, can mean a masculine energy is all of a sudden in the home. Like maybe you got a roommate. Maybe you're taking somebody on. Maybe you yourself are being a little bit more physical in the home, where you're like being more assertive. These are Mars keywords: assertions, being assertive, being more physical. Mars uses knives. So maybe you find yourself in the kitchen more, like, using a knife. Maybe you find yourself out in the garage or in the workshop. Maybe you whittle wood. Maybe you do things where you're cutting things, even in the yard and gardening, right? Because it has anything to do with your home. That can be in your home, outside your home, and your emotions. So when we got Mars for the entire month of March, I'm sorry, for the entire month of April in the home, it can make us feel like we have to be more active and we need to be doing something. Okay. Remember, you're a really empathic energy. You've got Cancer energy, empath, Cancer energy in the home. And so, what happens is if you live with others, right? Or even if there are people who feel like family, but they're not blood family, you feel what they're feeling, right? Yeah, it's empathic. And they don't even have to be in your house. They don't even have to be blood relatives. It's people where we connect more on a soul level, and even the public, because Cancer, your moon is your ruler. I know you're Aries, but you've got Cancer on the home. And so the moon is the ruler there. And so what happens, and if you're not aware of this, you kind of want to keep this in mind. The best thing I've ever recommended that I can think of is for people who are Aries, when you have the moon in your fourth house, that means Cancer energy. That means that when the moon changes signs, which it does every 2.5 days, the moon changes signs, which means your moods will change every 2.5 days. So, depending upon where that moon is, what sign it's traveling through, or what sign it just came out of, and the new sign it's going into, you will notice a change in you and in your feelings and in your sensitivities emotionally. Sometimes it'll be heightened, sometimes it'll be less. Sometimes it'll just completely change with the sign that it's in. If it goes into Pisces, it's a feel good energy. It's more low key. It's more dream and sleep and fantasy, right? It's pleasant because it would trine your Cancer home. It would be a beautiful, sweet trine energy. Even if it was in Scorpio, it would trine you, right? About deep buried emotions that are usually intense, it would still send a sweet trine. But if it's in a cardinal sign, if it's in like Capricorn, right? That's the opposite. That's the opposite of your home. Here's Cancer down here. Here's Capricorn up here. The opposite, an opposition. It's a push pull, sometimes like a tug of war, right? But if we go this way, if I turn this and we go this way, remember, Cancer's down here in the home. Well, you've got Libra and you've got Aries, right? On your ascendant, you've got Aries and Libra in the seventh house. That creates a T square, right? So as Mars is traveling through your home down here, it'll be angling up with your descendant and your ascendant. Not the entire month, right? Because Mars moves, um, it'll in 7 days it'll move 2 degrees. Okay, so it's going to change its locations, right? It's going to change where it's at. It doesn't do a retrograde this round, so we're good on retrogrades for a while with Mars, but it'll go forward, right? So knowing your chart and having that information in front of you so you can see it and be prepared for those emotional changes, those emotional mood swings would probably, I think, help a lot, and I used to do that. I used to just journal, right? And I don't have the moon in my fourth house. I don't have the moon or the sign of Cancer in my fourth, but I do have Cancer in my third house. So, like with my siblings or people that I live with or even next door neighbors, there's that heightened sensitivity there. And if it's in the third house, that's social media, that's the news. Like for many years, and I'm not even joking, there was a period of like 10 years, I'd never listened to the news ever. Like I had to just shut it down. Like I shut it, I 10 years, not an exaggeration. So, we have to learn how to work with our moon energy, and that's the sign of Cancer, and it is the actual moon in your chart. So just keep that in mind. And that's me just setting the tone because Mars can start things. Mars can inflame the emotional waters of the sign of Cancer. And if it's in your home, this can be literally where you live or your family and your emotions and your feelings, your emotional needs and your emotional securities. Mars may even prompt you to be like, we can't stay here any longer. We don't like this location. We got to get the hell out of here. Just remember, Mars is very impulsive. Keep this in mind, okay? It just means you need a break. You need a break. You need a break. You need a way to get some ease, to do things that are good for you, that work for you, because you got Mars kind of like stirring the emotional waters, so to speak. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Now, getting to the new moon, it's an eclipse and it's in your sign. And that has to do with your ascendant, your physical body, and where you're located. So you are absolutely probably going to be feeling, some of you might be already have a move planned at this time. Even if it's not a move from a home, you might be very physical and be moving around. Maybe you're going to be on the road, right? You might be changing jobs. That's a possibility. You may be considering jobs and locations that would then trigger you to move. That's a really good possibility because you're Cancer in the fourth house, which means, when you put a mood ring on and it changes, like you can see how it changes, think about it like that. So as you see it changing, it changes. It doesn't stay that way. So if you felt a certain way at a certain time, 48 hours later, or 72, right? Between 48 to 72 hours later, it's going to change. So just kind of keep that in mind because, especially for April, because Mars is very impulsive and will push you to do things where you might been like, what? I just got here. Like, we got to give this a little bit of a chance, right? We gotta like feel it out a little bit more. Maybe that isn't the right word, but we at least got to wait until Mars is out of our fourth house because it's not a realistic, it's not a realistic we're not giving it a, what do they say, the old college try. Like you got to like put in a little bit of time. And Mars isn't about that. Mars wants to speed right through everything. Okay. Now, I will add that when we have Mars in Cancer, um, to just be alert, if you are in a relationship or if you know somebody who's in a relationship, because Mars can create, I just got to keep it real. Mars carries weapons. Mars can create, like if there's people who, either they're married or whatever, there can be increase of emotions in the home. So whether it's drama in the home that escalates, that's a very good possibility with Mars in the sign of Cancer in someone's fourth house. So just keep that in mind. Now, the new moon squares this. Okay. And that's why I kind of wanted to make sure I was very thorough. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. Aries energy is positive and optimistic. Okay. And you know this because you're Aries. But there's a commonality between Aries and Libra and Cancer. They're all cardinal signs. So for all of us, this is a T square. Bottom line, it just is. Right. So here's my little pen, and think of you as Aries right down here. And then there's Libra, there's Cancer energy over here. And I said Aries down here. So that would put, we got to switch it. How about Aries over here? And then we have Libra over here. And then we have Cancer down here, Cancer in the home. Okay. So it's that triangle energy, but it's not trine energy. It's like a left triangle, a right triangle, and it's difficult. It creates stress and tension. So the stress and tension is your physical body, it is your home, and it's your significant one-on-one relationships. Okay. Now, the new moon is at 30 degrees of Aries, your sign. So what I'm going to do is we're going to read 30 degrees of Aries. All right. I think I have already read it in another video. But I am very much being prompted to read it for you guys in this video for Aries, because 30 degrees Aries, think of Aries is the, it's the first in the zodiac, and it, the fine wine takes time, right? Aries doesn't like to take time. I already told you that. But what about, Aries optimism, its ability to want its freedom, the freedom of the actions of its own bodies, right? And if it's in the seventh house for you, in your first house, you absolutely may feel like you need to be more physical. You need to change something about your appearance. And Aries normally has like a uniform on because it's known as the warrior. It's known as the Marine. So a uniform, a very uniformed, clean cut look, even for Arian energy. Some would say militant in look, right? has a uniform, maybe carries a weapon, maybe you work with knives, maybe you're a chef, and chefs usually have an apron, some wear hats, right? So, yeah, something about your appearance, a new look, even something about your appearance. And yeah, let's go to that 30-degree thing. I know we have Taffy, and she's kind of rambunctious, but I want to read this for you. Hold on, Taff. Here we go. Okay. So it says, it's giving us a visual, and yeah, we've read this before. We're doing it again. It's a duck pond and its brood. I'll attach the video below because it gives a nice visual, and there's some music and the realization of natural boundaries. The realization of natural boundaries. What is shown here is that every form of activity has its limits, and that even the consciousness that has been able to get a glimpse of the universal order has to bring down to its own karmic field of operation the message of harmony that it has heard inwardly. Peace and inner contentment with one's essential destiny, dharma, essential destiny, is required to meet the everyday world. The mystic may experience flights of imagination and transcendent vision, but he must return to the concrete earth and to his task in his social environment. Extensive as the latter may seem, it is still very small compared to the galactic field. It is indeed a duck pond compared to the ocean, but it is there that the substance for concrete action has to be found, and every effective activity has to be focused. Thus, the boundaries imposed by the very nature of this activity have to be consciously accepted. The key word here, another key word, is potency and is substantiation. Potency has to become substantiated. It has to mate with substance in order to be effective power. Power must accept the principle of vocalization. In other words, we can't just be going out and about all willy-nilly. We can't just either take action or run away or make a change in direction unless we are focalized, right? We have intent and we have like we know where we're headed. And Mars tends to leap without looking. Mars rules Aries. So the 30 degrees point is that visual of that brood, which is a mama duck and her babies, right? And if you've ever watched them, I'll put the video below. It gives you an understanding that when that mama duck moves, right, the babies move. They kind of follow mama. But at the same time, she tries to create a little bit of distance, a little individuality for herself. So there's a little bit of distance between them and her, right? So there's private space that is set up, even though they're still connected. You follow? So I think this is important for 30 degrees of Aries. This is on your ascendant. So it's your physical body, your appearance. Something is changing. It's a new optimistic beginning. And it is all about boundaries. Establishing your boundaries, establishing your individuality, establishing possibly a new sense of freedom for yourself, Aries. You got any questions? If you don't know and you want to know, just comment below and I will help you out in any way I can. Bye-bye. Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.